So we are ready to develop our first use case, and the first use case is this login page. So in this video today, we are going to develop this login page that allows the user or the student to enter the roll number and the corresponding password to log into the system. So for example, the roll number is CSM20002, and intentionally I'm writing a Q there so that it's not a valid username. And then the password, say I write some password there, valid or invalid, and then I click on this login button. So what it will do is, as soon as I click on this login button, what I want to do is I want to make a database connection. That is, I want my program to connect with the database somehow. When I say I want my program, the first thing will be done by JavaScript, the second part will be done by PHP code. Okay, we'll get into the details of those things, but ultimately we want our program to connect to the database and retrieve the content of the table, say student details. Again, I'll be showing you what the table is, what are the columns there in the table. In that table, we want our program to connect that table, see if there is a combination of this roll number and password there in that table. If it is there, then it should redirect our page. See here, right now the page is as login. So if it is a valid combination, we want our program to redirect the student to a different page. And if it is not a valid combination, as it is in this case, we want our program to just to show that the username and password is not a valid username and password. Say if I give some valid combinations, say here, right, valid username and say valid password. That time what we want is we want our program, that is in a program, to redirect the user to different page. When I say different page, you see right now the page is login oblique as login.php, but if I click on login, and it's going to be a valid combination. So as soon as I click on login, it redirects the student to a different page like student oblique home.php. Okay, so for today's video, we'll be concerning our discussion, we'll be focusing our discussion towards the development of these particular page. Okay, only up to the redirect part, redirect to a different page. What the content of that other page, that home page, will develop that page in some upcoming videos. But for today's video, we'll do only up to that redirection part. But before that, we will also solve different issues, like, see, this page is more or less a responsive page. It means that if I resize this screen, automatically the user interface is also getting resized and reorganized in some way. Okay, so that that responsiveness will be achieving using CSS and some inbuilt library, we'll be making some use of a very commonly used CSS library that is called as Bootstrap library. We'll discuss those points today. And also, when we click on this button, login button, what we want is we want to first call a JavaScript function written in jQuery, and from that JavaScript function, in turn, we want to do an AJAX call to the server. And that particular AJAX call actually will in turn, again, it will call another function that will connect to the database, and it will do this checking thing, like whether this username and password is there in the database or not. And based on the result returned by that function, whatever that result returned by that function, again it will propagate back to the JavaScript function, and then that JavaScript function, accordingly, based on the result, it will redirect the page or it will display the message on the screen. This entire thing we'll see one by one. Although I said, like, I mentioned you quite a long sequence of things that we want to happen, but if we do part by part, certainly things will make sense. So let's begin then. First thing that we'll focus is, or that we'll try to conquer, is this user interface. Only let's now, our main focus is to create this user interface. It is how do we create that actually? Okay, let's see now how we can actually do that. The first thing that you have to do is you have to open Visual Studio Code editor, and there I opened this our project one in my previous class. That's why it is coming. So for some of you, it might look something like this. Okay, or maybe even like this. So if it is the case, then what you do is you click on file and then you click on open folder, and then you select the folder that you created in the previous video, that is our project, which is there in C drive, jam folder, htdocs folder, and there inside that we have this our project one folder. You just have to go up to our project one, and then you have to click on this select folder. As soon as I click on this select folder, our project one folder will open, and you will be able to see the content of that folder. Basically, these are the subfolders that are inside that particular folder. Okay, and from there we'll start now. Now see, as I mentioned, that all the codes, all the PHP code, now see here, this login page is actually generated by these as a result of the execution of a particular PHP file. And also in the previous video I said that all the PHP code which are responsible for generating user interface, we'll be putting them inside this user interface folder. So following that principle, what I'm doing is I'm right clicking on this folder and I'm creating a new file there, and I'm calling that file as log. I can call it anything, but again, just I'm writing a name there as login.php. Okay, that dot extension, dot php extension, you have to write properly to indicate that this is a PHP file. It means the server has to actually execute this file rather than simply sending the content back to the client. Okay, now what we want is, we know that we want, what do we want from this function actually, or what do we want from this PHP program? We want from this PHP program, that is, we want this PHP program to generate some output or some HTML code which will be rendered in a browser in this fashion, right? Basically what we want is, we want this function or this PHP file to generate some HTML code. Okay, let's do it then. Simple. Let's first create some HTML code here, HTML, and then HTML again, and head tag I include. Inside this head tag, we usually write some other stuffs like the link to CSS files and some other things. Will come to those points. Okay, but for the time being, I'm trying to create a simple HTML file, HTML, and then body, and done. And inside that, let's just to start with, I write here a tag, h1 tag, header tag, and there I write some message like welcome or something. Done. And let's try to access now this HTML file from the web browser. How do we do that? We write localhost, and then inside localhost, our project name is our project one, but it is not a.html. Inside that we have user interface folder. Inside that we have not an HTML file, we have this as login.php file, right? And we press enter. So as soon as I press enter, we can see that the output is coming on the screen. It means that these particular PHP program is getting executed. That's a good sign, right? Now let's move to the next part. Now what do we want actually? These HTML page to have, we want this HTML page to have these elements. When I say, like, when you see an HTML page, basically an HTML page is a collection of some HTML elements. So for example, here this is a label element, this is an input element whose type is text. Basically we call it as a text box. This is again a label element. Label in the sense, like, a label is you can say like the simple text actually. And then this is again a text box, or basically an input element, and where the type is, although a text box you can say, but the type is more specifically password, in the sense that in a text box, if you type something, the text will appear as it is, but in a password input box, if you type something, those letters will not be displayed. Instead of that, only some dots will be displayed on the screen. And again, this is another element, HTML element, that is a button element there. Okay, now let's see how we can actually create these elements. And once we know how to create these elements, and then we'll move to towards their designing part and alignment part. Okay, that using CSS or using Bootstrap. Let's first create them at least. Okay, how to create them. So for that, again, we'll be updating this code. Let that welcome be there, no problem. It's not creating any harm. First thing is we want a level tag. So one level tag, done. And there we want roll number. And after that, in the next line, to go to next line in HTML, the one very common way of doing it is using this break. Okay, I'm just creating some interface. Okay, it might not be your final interface, but I'm just showing you how easily you can create those stuffs. And then another input type you need, another element that you need, that is your input, where the type is equal to text, right? And there, And there, what we want is the end. Let's first see if we write only these two things, what change that we can see there in the final output. We can see that this roll number is coming and this text box is also coming. Fine, good. And I can even type something in this text box. Now the next twos are almost same. So what I'll do is I'll simply copy this part and I'll paste it there. And then instead of roll number, we want to display there the text password. So I'll be writing the text as password. And also, this will create another text. Sorry, it's not coming in the next line because I didn't put this beyond there. So more or less it is creating a text box that this is also a text box, this is also a text box. I write the roll number, I write the password, but when I write the password I want to mask those characters by a dot. So for that reason what you can do is instead of using this type as text, you can use this type as password, and that way if you change that thing, whatever they use types here in this text box, that will appear as dots. Okay, done. And the next control at the end, we want in the next line a button. So the input, the element that we want to create is button. So I'll be writing button, open and close tag, press enter. Done. Now here you can write the text that you want to display on the top of the button. So I want to display the text as login. So that should display me another button here. So now if you see, if you compare these HTML page and these HTML page, you will see that element wise, more or less both these two pages are same. In this page also, we have a label, we have a text box, although the text box is displayed in a different way and in a different style, but still ultimately it is a text box and then another label, another text box and a button. Here also we have a label, text box, label, text box and a button. Now our goal now in the next few minutes, our goal is to convert this page to a page that looks something like this. And also see, this page is responsive more or less, as I said. However, this page is not responsive. I mean, it is not making, it doesn't have any sense of the available space, right? Always it is on the leftmost border of the page. Like no matter what I do, it doesn't know about the screen size and all this stuff, right? It is not responsive at all. So how we can make this code or make this page responsive and make it more or less like this page? Okay, that is our goal now. To do that thing, we'll be making use of some part of the Bootstrap library, some minimum use of the Bootstrap library, and also we'll be writing some of the CSS code by ourselves. Okay, let's begin first. Let's first see how we can actually use Bootstrap library in a project. Let's start from there. Okay, to do that thing, what you can do is that you can do a Google search, and then you type there Bootstrap. Okay. And as soon as I click there on Bootstrap, you should in the Google search these search result you should get, and you click on that search result. Basically, that is the Bootstrap. That is the web page of Bootstrap. From there, what you do is you can read if you want. You can read this stuff. But from there, see there are lots of examples also given there, like how you can use Bootstrap for different purposes. I'll not go into the details of all these things, but I'm just going to show you like how you can start developing a project using Bootstrap. The rest of the things you can explore more or less by yourself or by looking at some other videos. Now, for that reason, to start with, what you have to do is you click on this Docs tab there, and there you will get something called as your starter template. In the Docs tab, you will get something called as starter template there. So what you do is this starter template actually it gives you a portion of a pre-written code that involves all the necessary necessary commands or instructions or HTML code to include a Bootstrap CSS library with your project. So without talking much, let's copy this part of the code. Let's copy this part of the code, and what we want is, say, let's erase this HTML part now. We do not need it anymore. Let's put it here. Copy it, delete whatever you have already written in that as login.php and simply paste it there. Okay. Now the content of that page, HTML page has been changed. Now let's reload this page and see that what happens there. So it is simply showing you a hello world. I mean, this part, it is showing you hello world from because of this h1 tag there. Okay, and whether it is html, um, okay, let's see here what is happening there. Okay, which part is important for your bootstrap? So see here, this is required metadata. This part, this thing is always fixed. I mean, you are not going to do any change there. Okay, no matter what html page you are writing, most of the times you'll be writing this inside this head tag. You'll be always writing these first two lines. Do not need to worry much about that. Now here you see, this is the link. I mean, this is an html tag again. These are html tag again. Okay, uh, these are these are html tags. So this link is also an html tag that actually allows you to specify the css file that you want to connect with your html page. As I said, now here you see, in my previous explanation, if you remember, that this login.php file, actually this php file is responsible for generating this html code, plus it has to generate some js code and some css code. This css code, actually from where the css code should come, that is given by this particular link. You can say that this is a link. I mean, this actually is pointing to a particular file that contains the css code. Now if I click here, or if I copy this particular line, and if I paste it in the web browser, I mean address bar of the web browser, you'll see some text appearing there, and this is the content of that css file. I mean, it's in a very compact way. It is displayed, no space, no new line like that. But you see, these are some valid CSS code actually. Now, I'll come to this point. Now, you see here, if I want my program, I want my program to work properly, then now see here, this link is actually, it is pointing to a web resource, right? I mean, this is not locally there in my computer. So for that reason, if during the development period, if I want to if I want my development to go smooth, then always my computer has to be connected with the internet. Then only my program will be able to connect with the css code present there, right? So that should make sense to you. So one thing is that I always connect my laptop while doing this development, while writing the code, and during this development phase, basically I always have to connect my laptop with the internet connection. That is certainly a solution, and I can stick with this code. Another way is that what I can do is, see here, as I showed you, that if I paste that link here in the address bar, it retrieves the actual content of that bootstrap file, or that bootstrap.mean.css file. So what you can do is, you can make a local copy of that bootstrap library, and you can save it in our computer locally. And then here what we can do is, instead of writing here this web resource, like writing here the link of the the file which is there in the internet, what we can do is, we can write here the part of the file which is there in our local system, local file system. Okay, so let's do that actually first. Okay, how to do that? So for that reason, what we'll do is, we'll copy this link and we'll paste this link here in this. We can do that way also, like in this browser, and then we can get the code and we can save the code. Is one way, but I'll show you another better way of doing it. Because in this bootstrap web page itself, you have something called as your download. Okay, if you go to home, you have this download option there. You just click this download button, and then you will get something, this page should appear, and there what you can do is compile CSS and JavaScript. See, all this bootstrap, although I'm saying that it is a CSS library, but some of the CSS code requires to execute some JavaScript code also. So for that reason, when you download Bootstrap, it actually downloads both the CSS file and the corresponding JavaScript files needed needed by that CSS code. So you do not need to worry all these details for the time being. What you can do is, you simply can click on this pre-compiled CSS and JavaScript file. So compiled and minified CSS bundled on compiled and minified JavaScript plugin. So what you do is, you just can click on this download button. It will download this. Both these two files will be downloaded actually. If you click on this download, then one zip folder will be downloaded to your computer. You can show it in my computer. Now Bootstrap 5.1.3 distribution, within bracket it is coming as one, because I already had downloaded actually. But anyhow, just to show you, you right click there, then you unzip it, and then you click on extract. Now, if you extract, you see this folder will be created, and inside that folder you will have two files. One is CSS, one is JavaScript. These CSS file will have all those, you know, those CSS code. So you do not need to even look into those files there. See, after extracting those, see here, this is a downloaded zip file. You extracted that file, and you got this particular folder. From this folder, you basically have to copy these two subfolders, CSS and JavaScript. Okay, and where you are going to copy it, you are going to copy it inside your our project folder. In this project folder, you see, we have written this CSS, all the CSS we want to put here inside this folder. So inside this CSS folder, you create a new folder and call it, say, Bootstrap. Bootstrap. Done. And inside that Bootstrap folder, you paste both the CSS and JavaScript folder that that you downloaded. Now, if you see now from your Visual Studio Code editor, then you should see that inside this CSS folder, you have a Bootstrap folder, and inside that Bootstrap folder, you have two subfolders. One is CSS, one is JavaScript, and let that thing be there as it is, like that way. Now, let's see how we can actually see inside this CSS folder, this bootstrap.mean.css is there. Up to this part, that is this thing we want. But the thing is that this previous portion, now we do not want it from that web resource or from the internet. From where we want to specify here the local part. And what is that local part? The local part is like it's there in our project, our project one. Inside that project one, we have a folder called CSS. Inside that, we have a folder called Bootstrap. And inside that, we have a folder called CSS, and inside that we have a file called bootstrap main.css. So somewhere it will be there, bootstrap main.css, bootstrap main.css, this particular file. Okay. So here it is done. I mean, this is the local part. Instead of now see here, if I replace the instead of writing here a internet resource, if I write here a local resource, then the advantage is that during development period, we do not have to connect our laptop always with, or the computer always with, the internet. That's certainly an advantage. And if you want, that is, if you are using a local copy, you do not have to include those cross origin and all these stuffs. Basically, it's just these two attributes are enough. Like, one attribute is what is the part, and another one is what is the relationship. Now, if it is a CSS, always it will be style sheet. Done. And then same way here, this is inside this head tag, you specify the CSS file. Inside your body tag, you have to specify the the JavaScript file. As I said, this Bootstrap library also involves some of the JavaScript code, and the way we replace this CSS library with our local local version of that, or local copy of the Bootstrap, similarly this part also will replace. Okay, now see here, js/bootstrap bundle main.js. That is, inside this JS folder, there should be one bootstrap bundle main.js, and that should be there, bootstrap bundle main.js. Now we want, instead of this HTML, internet resource, what we want is, here we want to write our local copy of that, of this file, right? So how we're going to do it? The same way we did it here, like, but yeah, okay, let me write it here, that our project, sorry, PRJCT, our project one oblique, there it is, there in CSS folder. Inside that, there is a folder bootstrap. Inside that, there is this JS folder, and inside that, this bundle.main.js. We are going to get rid of these two attributes, and rest of the code, this is another way of including the JS file, but that is not our concern right now. We are happy with the first option itself, so we'll be deleting it. and then let that the first comment be there. This green line is a comment line, so you do not need to worry much about it again. And then then the thing is done actually. I mean, let's see whether it gives us the output or not, or whether things are according to the way we want it to happen or not. Let's see. If I refresh this page, the output is same. Now let's, if I see the page source there, we'll be seeing that okay, in the page source, this is the, like, this is the link to the CSS file. So if I click here, it should take me to that our local copy of the CSS file. Let's see here, bootstrap CSS bootstrap main.css, right? This is the local version that we stored there in our computer locally. Now same thing is like for, should happen for this JavaScript file also. If I click here, it is saying me that it is, this resource is not found. It means what? There is some problem with this, with the way I specified this part. This part is not right, and that's why it is showing me this error. And if you see, I did a mistake actually. I didn't write that forward slash there. So let me make that correction. So I'm doing it that way, and then what I'm doing is I am refreshing this page here, and I am viewing the code here and clicking on this, and see, it's taking me to the corresponding JavaScript file. It means things are properly connected. Okay, and now let's give some, our Bootstrap library is included. Now let's try some default Bootstrap properties there. One of the Bootstrap properties, like you can easily change the text. For text color, we have different inbuilt CSS Bootstrap classes are there. For background, for the borders, we have inbuilt classes are there. CSS classes are already there. So let's make use of those things first, and let's see whether they're working properly or not. Say first we want to say, say the title of the page. That is not a Bootstrap property, okay? But I do not like that hello world title. Let me first change it to say student login. Student login, that I want as the title of my page. And where the title of the page is displayed, see, the title of the page is displayed here, like here, as the name of the web page. Okay, so if I refresh this page, now it will show the title of the page is student login, the way it is displayed here, the same way it is displayed here. That is the title of the page. Okay, anyhow, that is not a part of Bootstrap or something. I just wanted to tell you. Now, come to the point here, this h1 tag, and then suppose I want to change the text color of this h1 tag. I mean, this part of the text, okay, using Bootstrap. How we can do that? So I'll be using a inbuilt Bootstrap class that in CSS we write the thing as like, if you want to apply a class on a particular element, then we'll be writing inside the element tag, we'll be writing class equal to and the name of the class. Okay, so the name of the class we'll be using from Bootstrap, and one such class to change the text color is text, and then that hyphen symbol, and then I can write here text primary. So it will change the color of this text to text primary. And say here, if I refresh, this is the text primary. There are different inbuilt classes that are, like, say for example text danger, that will make the text sort of, it will display the text in sort of red color. This is wrong actually, it's not working. Because I did a spelling mistake there. D-N-G-R. If I write it right, then it should display the text in some sort of red color. In some sort of red color. Okay. Done that. Now it means what? Our Bootstrap is at least working, right? And then what we want is, our goal is to align our what our goal is to create these interface actually, and in a responsive way. First thing you should notice here, that these the elements, whatever the elements are there in this HTML page, somehow they are displayed at the center of the page. Actually, you see here at the center of the page. If I resize my screen size, then also they are there at the center. If I make it bigger, then also this part of the text, they're always there at the center, right? But how to achieve that thing? It's a very common problem that we encounter, or that we always have to solve, like displaying something at the center of a container. Now here the container is the page, and we have to display these elements there at the center of our main page. Okay, how to achieve that thing? That's the question. So there are ways of doing it. Okay, I'll be just doing it in one particular way, but you just believe me that there are many different ways of achieving the same thing. But I'm just telling you what it is that we want to achieve is that we want to display some content at the center of a of a you can say like at the center of the screen for the time being. Okay, now here, now let's see how we can achieve that. Okay, so to achieve that thing, I'll be not using Bootstrap, I'll be using my own CSS. Okay, Bootstrap I'll use for some other purpose. I'll be telling you for what purpose I'll be using Bootstrap. Here I included Bootstrap just to show you how to include Bootstrap with your project, so that later on whenever we want Bootstrap we can use Bootstrap. Okay, so that part is done. Now the next part is that we want to solve this problem, like how to display some content at the center of a page. That is something that we want to achieve. See here, even if I resize my page, the content is still there at the center of the page, and that is something very interesting, right? And let's see how to achieve that thing, or how easy or difficult it is to achieve that thing. So to do that, let's do some work here. Okay, done and done. This is your text danger hello world. We do not need this hello world anymore, so I'll get rid of that part. Or say okay, if we want again we'll write it. Okay, now this is our default, this is our now, like our page looks something like now this Bootstrap I do not need. Page looks something like this, nothing is there. Say what we can do. Okay, so what we can do is that okay, let's create a div here. Okay, div, and then here I want to apply a class that, say, call it, say, the main div or something. Okay, I'm calling it main div. The thing is that when I write here class is equal to main div, then what happens is that, like, as I said, no, these class actually represents a CSS class, and from the name itself you can see that this is not a Bootstrap class. Actually, it is not there inside this file. This is a Bootstrap class that I want to write. Okay, so that's what I'm going to do now, where we are going to write our own CSS class then. So for that reason, again, we'll be using this CSS oblique Bootstrap folder. Inside this CSS folder, I'll create a file and we'll call it, say, mycss.css. That CSS extension is important to indicate that that is a CSS file we're writing. Okay, now inside this mycss file, we'll be writing our code. Like, say, for example, we want to write a class called my, what is that we want, main div, right? So this part, instead of calling main, okay, let it be main div. Okay, we want to create a class called main div. So whenever you want to create a class in CSS, you have to write like dot and the name of the class that you want to create, and then open flower bracket, close flower bracket. Inside that, you can specify all the styling properties like attributes, along with the values, whatever it is that you want to change or you want to apply, in that class. Let's say, for example, main div, I want to change the background color. Background color is, say, for example, red, just to show you, although that red might not be very suitable for a user, but then also the background color is red. And that's all. Let's see here how it is reflected. Now these div here, if you do not write any content there in the div, nothing will be displayed. It's like, by default nothing. But that too, like if you write some text there, and then that div will be displayed on the screen, and then that div should appear in red color, but it is not appearing in red color. It means that there are some mistakes there. Where that mistake could be, see here, if you think for a moment, that mistake is that, yes, already although we have written this class, but the thing is, this class is by any means, it is not linked with this PHP file. This PHP file have no idea where this main div class is. So as a result, although it doesn't show you any error, but the thing is, it will not behave the way you wanted it to behave. The behavior was like we wanted this div to be displayed in red color, but it is not happening, and that is the reason, because here in this PHP file, it has no idea like where that CSS class is, is there, like in which file is it there or where it is. It doesn't know about it. So for that reason, it is not working. So if we want that, we want this class to be applied on this particular div, writing along with writing this, at the same time also you have to specify where this class can be found. And how we can, and how you can achieve that, by just by linking this css file that contains the definition of that class with our php program. And we already have done it with this css file, so linking another css file should not be a problem. What you do is you simply copy this line. If you want, you can type, but it will save time. You simply copy this line and the link, and then which css file we want to link to this PHP file, that you have to mention. Where it is actually, you see, inside this CSS folder, it is not inside Bootstrap. This my CSS file is actually outside this Bootstrap folder, but it is inside the CSS folder, right? So inside Bootstrap, inside CSS, we have this my css.css file there, and the relationship is, it is a style sheet, so we do not have to do any change there. After doing this, let's refresh this page and see. Now it is showing us, okay, now the content is actually displayed, the div is displayed, right? That css is working. Okay, great. Then I do not like this red color much, and let me change it to something like light blue, or something light blue. Done. Now what we want is, before that, anytime you write css, most of the developer does that thing just to, um, um, there are some default behavior. Usually we write it in this way, okay? I mean, that padding, to make sure that the default padding is 0, and 0, you can write pixel, no problem. And margin is also 0 pixel or 0%, because since it is 0, if anything you can write 0 pixel. And then there is one more, box sizing is your box border box, okay? That's all. So you can read about these three. What is this box sizing, what is padding, and what is margin? These are some HTML properties, that but by default, this padding could have some value and margin could have some value, and this box sizing is border box, because there are different boxes actually you can think an HTML element has, like the outer box and all this stuff. So how we can consider, like, which box we should consider as our box size, so that is mentioned here. By default, we want the outermost border box, okay? So, and this star, it means that, like, for all the elements we want to apply this particular class there. It doesn't have any name. It's just like for all the elements, by default, this should be the property, if it is not overwritten explicitly, okay? So most of the times whenever we write css, we always start with this few lines there, just to make sure that everything is set before starting. It is as if, like, if you go to a petrol bunk and then you want some petrol, so before giving you petrol, actually they reset the counter, all the counter to zeros, right? So the same thing is actually resetting the counter to zeros. Then after that, you do whatever you want to do actually, and then I refresh the page. Nothing has been changed much actually, only the color. Done. Now our goal, we do not want to deviate from our goal. Our goal is actually to display the content at the center of the page. The first thing is make this page like a bit bigger. Now it's like showing only the only like this much. We want to cover these div to cover the entire screen, whatever the available space it is there. So for that reason, what we can do is you can give it these div some width and height. So let's first fix that width property. So let's see, this is an attribute of that element, and this is the value of the element. So you will be writing attribute, the name of the attribute, colon, the value of the attribute, and then you'll be writing a semicolon. So whenever you are writing a class, okay? So width, and we want this width to be, let's say, 100% of the available space. So I'll be writing 100%. Done. And then the height we want, so I can write 100%, but that might not work. So one thing that you can do is 100 vertical height. You can do it in this way. See, this vertical height is this entire space from here to here, that is actually 100 vertical height. So no matter what, actually, if your screen size is small, then your vertical height will be only this much, like that. Okay, so that is a sort of a relative measurement. So height is equal to 100 vertical height. It means that 100% of the screen in terms of height. Let's after doing this change, see here, I just have changed this CSS style, and since that style is applied on this particular, on this particular div, on this particular div there, that will be reflected if I refresh this page there. Now see, this is my, right now this is the output of our code. Anyhow, it doesn't look that bad. We are very much close now, at least one step closer, right? And then our goal is somehow we have to bring this text, like if we know how to bring this text inside this at the center, then we know, like more or less we can apply the same concept to bring anything at the center of the page. Okay, so how we are going to achieve that? The main div is almost done, and then we want, say that we want a center div here. Okay, like this thing, instead of some simple text here, we want a center div. Okay, I'm going slowly for the first use case. Rest of the use case, if you are quite familiar with all this stuff, then we can go fast. But for this use case, let us go a bit slowly so that everybody can follow. Now let's create another div, and there I write, say, hello world, just the sake of writing something. I'm writing hello world there. Okay, and then I want to give it this div some border. Okay, and I'll be using some Bootstrap class immediately, just to, and I see if I simply write this thing this way and I press refresh this page, hello world is coming. See, but no borders or nothing. I mean, I don't have any way of telling, like, where, which is the boundary of this internal div. Actually, this is the outside div, I know, but where is the boundary of the internal div? Suppose I want to display the boundary of that internal div, this div. Okay, how you can do that? I can write a class here, like in this way, class is equal to some class. I can write, say, for example, the inner div. Okay, inner div, and then I can write here a class like inner div. I call it, say, inner div. You have to make the in exactly same inner div, and then what I can do is I can write there border is equal to red and solid red, actually. So solid red. So this will make the border of that internal div solid red, right? It's coming now. See here, this is this internal div, actually. Okay, now, if you want to give border to a div, this is one way you can do it, but you do not have to write a class by yourself. Already there are some predefined classes there in Bootstrap, so you can use any one of them. So one class is your, like, you can use Bootstrap class border, and then border, say, primary. Let's see what difference we see there. Border primary is this primary. See, text primary showed you the text in blue color. So primary is this color, actually, this blue color. So you can write here same way border danger also, I guess. Okay, and refresh. See, it's displaying you the border of the it's in red color. But that was not our goal. I mean, our goal is that somehow we have to bring this div the center of this screen there, right? How we are going to achieve it, actually? First thing is, let's make this div. We do not want this div to cover this entire space there. So I give it a anyhow. I'm going to create another class there. Say, for example, that class is inner div. Inner div. Okay. And then I'm create, anyhow, I create, I have to inner div, and then here I specify some width property. Width is equal to width is your not 100% we want, say, only 80% of the width available space. And then height we want, say, only now 50 vertical height, almost half. And then let's see how it is different from the previous case here. Width is almost 80% width and height is almost 50%, half of the screen actually. Okay, then our goal is now our goal is to bring this div at the center. If we know how to do that, then most of the things are done. Okay, let's see how to do that. To do that, what we will do is we will write another class, and that class, oh no, here itself you can write in this inner div itself, not inside this inner div, in this where we have to write, yeah, in the main div we will be writing now. What we want is, because see here, we want these inner div to be placed at the center of the main div. Okay, so we'll be changing some CSS property of the main div now. Inside this main div, what we'll do is we'll change one CSS property that's called as your display, and then we'll make it to display flexible. Okay, so flexible in the sense, this is a sort of a property, the attribute value. There are different values it can have, like display none, display block, display inline, and the same way display flex is also a property. Okay, the value we should set to display flex, and then you I can explain you display flags, but it will it but for the time being, you just type the thing as it is. Once you finish typing, then things will make sense to you automatically. Okay, display flags, and then you write there another CSS property, that is your align items. See, the advantage of using an editor, you do not have to actually remember the entire, like all the those names exactly spelling by spelling. You just need to type the first few letters, automatically it will show you the rest of the things. But anyhow, I am not interested in align items. I'm interested in align you know but first, I want to do something like set the property of justify content, and we want to justify the content at the center, so center. And then I will write these align items, and also these align items also at the center. See here, only writing these 3 lines immediately will bring the inner div at the center, no matter what is the size of your screen, and no matter what I do. See here, if I make our screen size smaller, then also it is at the center. If I make it bigger, then also it is standard at the center. If I make it if I reduce the vertical size, then also it is at the center. No matter what I do with my page, the content is always displayed at the center. That the content, in the sense that inner div is always displayed at the center, right? Now it is done. Then what we want is, inside this inner div, we want to actually display these elements, like one level, one text box, another level, another text box, and this login button. Let's try to do that. If I'm accessing the web page from a bigger screen, then these text boxes are this much, around like at the center, and like around say 60% of this available space. But if I make it smaller, you see here it is almost covering the entire available space there, right? I mean, how do we achieve that thing actually? See here, this property. And that property we will be achieving using our grid property of Bootstrap. Okay, let me draw something there. So Bootstrap makes splits this entire available space. If you're using a Bootstrap container, there is a class called as your container, and inside that container class you can create some row container, and inside that row container you can create some column container. As the name itself indicates, this container you can consider as a table, and this row container you can consider as the individual rows there, and this column container you can consider as as some columns there. Okay, now see, these row container is by default, it is divided into 12 columns. Maximum it can have 12 columns. If it has more columns, then automatically another row will be created at the bottom, and those columns will be shifted down to that particular row. Now, that way, what we can do is, like, whenever we're creating, say, for example, a container, like say, for example, we're creating a div, and then we can specify like how many columns that div should occupy, whether it should occupy 2 columns, it should occupy only 1 column, or it should occupy the entire row, like that. Those properties we can specify. Okay, so let's without going into the details much, let's directly write some code and try to understand the things here. Okay. Inside this div, what I want is I want to create a container called as, like, first thing is that I will be creating a div, and there I'll be applying this class called container. Okay, and then done. This is my sort of the outside table. Let us see here in this diagram. If you see this container, you can think as if it is the table. Okay, and then since you are creating a table, we are interested in creating some rows also. Okay, and then I'll be creating this div, and then I'll be in like, this is I want this div to be a row, so I'll be writing here class is equal to row. Done. This row is also created. See here, this row class, this row container, I mean this div whose class is row, it is there inside this container, inside this div whose class is container. Okay, done. And then what we do is we want to create some columns also, so we'll be creating another div there, and then that particular div we want to give a class called column. Up to this point, not a big deal actually, but what we can do is actually we can specify there are different screen sizes which are recognized by Bootstrap. Some screen sizes are like, where is my pen? Yeah, some screen sizes are like different screen sizes, like small, medium device, large device, and extra large device. If you want, you can do a Google search also, it will reveal the things. Like here, if I write bootstrap screen sizes, if you write and if you click there, see here, Bootstrap grid system. See, this is the grid system I'm talking about. Here, these are some sizes available: extra small, small, medium, and large. You can actually go through these different this W3 School tutorial if you want. If you want to get into more details about this grid system, but I'll be using this grid system actually to create our interface. Okay. So for that, what you can specify here is that, like, column, like for up to which device, that if it is up to the say medium sized device, up to the medium sized device, what we want this div to occupy is three columns. So what basically we want to do is that, let me show you. This is the thing that we want to do. Like if it is a big screen, if it is a big screen like this is your div. Now if this div is displayed in a big screen, then we want to do something like this. That is the first 30% we do not want to use. That is, we want to divide this div into three columns. That is our first 30%, in the sense, like, see, this is 12. So the first three column and the last three column, we do not want anything here. And in the middle six column, we want to display the actual content. And the rest of the rows will be like this. This is the first row, second row, third row, and the fourth row. In the first row, what we will be displaying is we'll be displaying the text username or the roll number, whatever it is, username. And here we'll be displaying a text box that completely occupies that particular cell. Here we'll be displaying the text password, and here will be another row we'll be needing. Here I'll be displaying showing the text box here that will occupy the entire cell. And there, here in the next row, or where we want, actually we want to display the button here. So this login button will appear. We want that login button to appear here. Now see, this entire div, our goal is to divide this entire div into three. Now three. We want to split this entire div into a table where the 30% of the space, the first column will occupy 30%, last column will occupy 30% of the space, and then the middle column will occupy 60% of the space. And this is the behavior we want for if the web that the content is viewed in a device whose screen size is at least medium device. Okay, and up but if the screen size is whose screen size is up to medium device, okay, if it is a medium device, then also no, there's a confusion here. See, we want this thing, we want to split this way, or leave in this way, only when our device size is, see, we have these device sizes, right? That's extra small screen, small screen, and small screen, medium device, and then large device, right? We want this thing to happen for these large device onwards. Okay, if the device screen size is large or extra large, then we want this splitting to happen in this way. But for these three categories, what we want is we do not want any splitting actually. Directly we want to display the username here, then here the text box, then the text password here, here this text box, and then here we want to display the button. That is, we want only one column. That is, we do not want to leave that 30% at the front end and 30% at the end, at the end. We want this splitting to happen only for those large devices. I can set it like from medium device onwards, we want this splitting to happen. But for small devices, we do not want any splitting, because for small devices, we do not have much space actually. And for large devices, we do not want this text box to cover from here to here. So for that reason, we want to leave some space on both the side. So that these are two different situations we want. Based on the size of the screen, sometimes we want our content, we want that div to be split in this way, or sometimes we want that div to be displayed in this way. So this conditional displaying, like, based on the screen size, how we can actually display, display the content differently. The way that we want this div to be displayed in different ways based on the screen size. This can be achieved very easily using Bootstrap CSS. Okay, and let's see how to do that actually. So inside this row, we want to create, inside a row, we want to create three divs, right? That is three columns we want to create. So first, let's create those three divs, and then div. This is the first div. And here, what we will write is we want to specify that the class is a column, and also what we want to specify is that from medium device onwards, that column should take three, uh, three cells in the grid view. Out of 12 cells, it should take three cells. Okay, the second grid, what I will do is, this is my second column, this is my third column. The second column we want to occupy six. From medium device onwards, it should occupy six cells there in the grid view. And then here the last one also should take three. Grand total should be 12. Okay, but what happens if the screen size is smaller than medium device? So that time this column will occupy all the spaces available there. I mean 12 columns, and this will occupy also 12 columns. This will also occupy 12. But here, out of these, in only in the middle, see here in this splitting, when the div is displayed in this way, only in the middle divs, or the middle columns, we want to display some content. On the left and right columns, we do not want to display anything. So if this column becomes a new row, anyhow, since that will be blank row, nothing will be displayed, so it will not be visible to the user. Okay, let's when I write something here, it will come to know what I mean. So here, say, I write here, say, I want to create an label, right? So we know how to create that label. So we'll be creating a label, and there I'll be writing, say, enter the roll number. So roll number, done. And then this is our first row done. This is our first row. This is our first row, right? So we want to create now the second row here. So in the second row, what we want is, we want, instead of creating a roll number label, we want to create a input text box. So input, and then I'll be writing type equal to text, and then that's all done. And let's first see these two rows I have created. It means what? These username and this text box is being created. Let's see whether it is reflected there or not. Okay, if I go to s login and I press enter, now see something is happening. At least this roll number and this text box is coming, and more or less they are displayed at the center. Is it at the center? I'm not sure, but if I display the border of these divs, then I'll come to know. So for that reason, what I do is, for each column at the same time, I display the border also. Border, and like border, uh, say any color I can choose a border. What, danger or whatever. And the same, we want to display the border for all these three columns. So just to show you that, like, which div is from where to where it starts, where it ends, and all the things like here. Just press. See here, it's like this is our first border, like this is our first div, this is the second div, and this is the third div. These colors are not coming in properly, so this is a spelling mistake actually. This is border, and here I'm done, and then let's refresh. Now see, this is the first div, second div, and the third div. First div is approximately 30% of the available space, 30% last div is taking, and the middle div is actually taking almost 60%. Now, if I reduce the size, let's see what happens. See, if I reduce the size, then what is happening here? You see, up to the medium device, we wanted this splitting to happen. But if it is below, if it is below the medium device, then what we want is we do not want that splitting to happen. Actually, we want it to occupy all the available spaces. So that is what it is, which is happening here. Right now, what we want is like not up to the medium device. Say we want this thing to happen only like if it is a medium device, then also we want to occupy the entire space. So from large device onwards, we want this splitting to happen. So I'll be writing here large, large, and large. And then I refresh this page and I press enter. I have to press Control Shift and then done. Let's now refresh. For large device, splitting is done. Like as soon as it becomes a medium sized device, see this entire space, this column is taking this entire space now, and up to the small size devices. Okay, more or less we are moving towards our goal. So 2 rows are created, done. And then we wanted the downward rows, like for another 2 rows for username and password, right? So this is for password, then roll number, and then here we want password, and there we want these to be of type password, right? And let's see, roll number, then text box, password, then text box. And if I reduce, if I change my screen size, it's accordingly it is behaving. But this text box, we want to cover this 100% space. That's not a big deal. We can do it in many different ways, but we'll be writing a class there. So that will be, say for example, we'll be writing, say login text box. So login text box, save. Okay, box, you can call this class anything, and we want that text box to occupy the width of the text box. We want to be 100%. Okay, and then this class, what we'll do is we'll apply on these input tags. Like here we'll be writing class is equal to that class that we just have created, and then there also will be applying on this so we'll be applying this see, it's occupying almost all the space, available space, right? Done. And also what we want is we want some space there in between these individual rows there. Okay, so what we can do is we can do like here, this container class we have written, and in this container class we can specify some properties there. Here itself, style, and what we do is one property is the margin property, margin, and then I can specify, say, 2%. Different units are there, like you can specify the unit in RAM or pixel or in percentage or anything. Let's try with this 2% margin, how it changes. Now it's getting some, I don't know, I did this for each individual row we want to apply margin. Okay, not on this thing actually. For I have to write this thing, I have to write here actually for this, the first row, and then the second row also we want, and then the third row we want. How many rows? 3 rows, 4 rows should be there. This is first row, second row, third row. What is happening? First row, second row, third row, fourth row. There should be 4 rows. First row, second row, third row, and this is another row. Here, what we want to do is this. Let's now see the effect first. Things are coming now, more or less, with some space now. And then we need this button. First, let's fix that button there. Okay, and then we'll move forward. We want to create another row there, like this is how we, okay, let's write the code. Say we want to create a row div, and then class is equal to row, and that's done. And then also we want to apply some spacing here, so we'll be writing, no, sorry, I'm sorry. And then we'll be writing this stuff here, style equal to margin 2%. That row is created, and inside this row we want to create only one column, so we'll be writing div and then class is equal to column. And inside this we do not have to do any splitting for that column, right? Only one column is enough, and that there we want to display a button, so we'll be creating the button. We'll be creating the button, and done. And there we want to display this text login. Okay, and let's see where it goes. Okay, now this row is created, and this login button is coming here. Okay, do not you worry, we'll take care of that part. Now row margin, and for this row, this column we want to, for this column we want to display the border, say, as we did previously. So here we'll be writing this column should have some border also, so that we come to know like uh, where that column starts, where it ends. Okay, now see, this is this entire column. Now since we didn't do any splitting, no matter what my screen size is, it's like always the same column. Okay, but we want this login button to appear here. Okay, that is a problem. So what we do is we'll stick with our default things like tree splitting, like same thing here. Basically we'll be copying this part here, and then we'll be pasting it here. And I'm feeling like this video is going a bit longer, but then also we'll finish. So like as soon as the interface is designed, and then we'll finish this video here, and rest of the things we'll do in the next video. So div class margin and everything is fine here, but the thing is this input, instead of this input type text, we just want to display this button. So that way our problem will be solved, and we do not need this row anymore. So it's now refresh this page. Now the button is coming, but the thing is this button we want to go to that particular direction. So how do you do that? Again, different ways are there. So what approach I'll be taking is I will be applying here again another class there. Now here actually what I'll be doing is I'll write here a div, and that div, inside this div I'll be writing style. Here itself I'll be doing style is equal to width. I want that div to occupy all the 100% space available, and also I'll put a semicolon. And also what I want is I want to set the display property to be flex, and what I want is whatever the content of this div, whatever the content of that div, we want to align the content towards left, or sorry, towards right. So what I'll do is I'll write here justify content content at the property to end. See whether that solves our problem. That login button should go towards the right. Now it's coming towards the right. Okay, there certainly I could have done it in different ways, but this is, I guess, the most the fastest way I could have done. Okay, so anyhow, so now see here the button is coming now. At the container, it is displayed on the rightmost side of the container. Okay, here almost done. And now we want to apply some CSS property here. That is, here you see this login button is displayed in a nice green way, the text is displayed in white. How difficult it is to achieve. If you're using Bootstrap, it's not a big deal. How we can do that? Let's just directly apply here some class. Now on this button there are some predefined class, like class is equal to predefined Bootstrap class, that is button, and then you write button success. Okay, these are some predefined class that you can use from Bootstrap library, and that will change the appearance of the button completely immediately. Okay, done. And then what do we want? We want these roll number and then password text to be displayed in some color, right? I mean, that's easy. I mean, for for the time being. I mean, you have already seen many times using Bootstrap class. So I'll be using Bootstrap class again, class Bootstrap, and then here I'll be using say text. I'll be using text primary, or maybe the different text colors are there. Whatever you like, you can use. So you can do a Google search there. I mean, Bootstrap text. Okay, and then if you click, you will see different text colors are there. You should get some example there. No, that text color here. Text primary is this color, text success is this color, like whatever the color that I want. Suppose this text info color. Okay, so what I'll do is I'll use like text info. So the text password will be displayed in this particular color. Same way, I want to display this use that roll number text here. I want to apply the same class text info. Let's see the effect. See the effect here. If I do not want, see here in this page the background is white. I do not want this blue background anymore. It's initially I wanted it because I had to explain, right, like to show you that the main div is actually covering the entire page. But now once that purpose is fulfilled, I do not want this main div to have any color. So what I'll do is I'll remove this background color property from this class, and immediately that should be reflected here. Okay, and then I do not want these borders also. Let this out, this this inner the center border, center div have the borders for the time being, but these intermediate borders I do not want them anymore. Okay, so what I want is I want to remove wherever this border danger is there. I want to remove them. So what I'll do is I can replace it by blank and then replace everything. That border will, all the borders will disappear from the screen now, right? Most of the things are achieved here, right? Like this now interface is sort of responsive. Here, suppose we want this thing to spread a bit more. So instead of 60%, you can like consider like the first two column here, you want to make it 8, and then here again, you want to make it 2. Same thing you have to do everywhere actually. 2, this is 8, and this is 2, and also 2, this is 8, and this is 2. Yeah, last time 2 and 8 and 2, done. Another one, okay, that's not a problem. 2, 8 and 2. Grand total should be 12. You should remember that. Don't worry if something goes wrong. Now there are always ways of doing it, right? 282, 282. Now this is 282, and the rest of the things are fine, I guess. Let's try. 82, username, password, and the login button. More or less, now it is almost same. One thing is different, certainly, other than this text size, these borders are not coming. Like we just want the underlining border, that the bottom border. Rest of the borders we do not want. Suppose, okay, how we can achieve that using CSS? Now there you see, like in these text boxes, text box here, this text box, I already have written a class for this text box. Okay, so inside that, you go to that particular class there, like where is it, this color here. I want, what borders we want? Border, we want border to be we can do border to be none. That will a border none, say, yeah, okay, no problem. Border none, you put a semicolon, that will remove the borders completely for all, for these two text boxes. Okay, but we want that below border to appear. So again, I'll be writing border, and we'll write bottom. So then I'll write solid, and then also I'll specify the size, like what size, 1 pixel, 2 pixel, like how thick we want this line to be. Okay, so for that reason, that thing. Now see this underlining, that the bottom line is coming, the left, right, and this top line is gone. And then what else? And then we want to make this font size to be a bit bigger. Let's see, let's try to do something there. this roll number, you can use one inbuilt property like class display info, and then you can write display 4, I guess is one Bootstrap inbuilt class that you can use to give some text size, but it will make the text size much bigger. So what else you can do? You can apply, say, a font size property, or what you can do is you can use some header tag like say h2 tag, and then see whether that solves the problem or not. Okay. So, yeah, but it is coming in bold, but anyhow that doesn't that looks good, fine, okay. And or maybe some h3 tag, or you can change the font style or font size also, that you can try. Roll number and then the password, but I do not like that for some reason. You can use here style is equal to, and sorry, this font, and then maybe it was a size or something. I didn't use this property for many days for a reason. It's happening. Roll number, now you can see here by default the size is 16 pixels, so I'm giving 3 times larger, but I do not want 3 times larger. Two times will be fine, so 32 pixels will be more reasonable, I guess. I mean, pixels is reasonable. So roll number is this, and same way I can give here not only 32 in terms of 16, you can give like 24 pixels also. That will be not much bigger, not much smaller. Roll number, okay, fine. And then same styling you can apply here. Roll number and the password here, class style equal to this, I'm doing inline styling. You can create some classes also if you want. Now roll number is this, password is this. Most of things are done. Now this page more or less looks something like this page, okay, other than the text color or something. Like if you want, you can change any this text colors according to your need. Like text info, is it in text info? Yeah. Let's see here. Text info, okay, done, right, yes. And then now our user interface is ready. Like the way this user interface is more or less like a responsive user interface. The content is always displayed at the center and all this stuff. And here also we have achieved, we designed our user interface that looks very much similar to our referenced user interface. Right here also, this is a responsive user interface, and if and this stuffs like these text boxes are occupying most of the space, and only the underlining, the bottom line is displayed, and stuffs like that. So since our interface is done, then in the next video, what we're going to see is we will try to connect now. Now see what we have done actually. We wrote some PHP code, basically. Not PHP, in fact, we have written some HTML code that simply generates some, user interface at the client side. Now what we will do is we'll add some JavaScript code here. Like as soon as I click on this login button, we want some JavaScript functions to be executed, and from that JavaScript function again we will see how we can make an AJAX call that again in turn can interact with the database server, and then retrieve some information from the database, and then sends back those information to the JavaScript function, which was called from this from the click event of this button. And that JavaScript function accordingly will do the necessary actions based on the result returned, like whether it should redirect to a different page or it should show you this invalid message on the screen. Okay, so those part we will see in our next video. Okay, till then, have a nice day.